So welcome back to this week's episode of the Face Yoga Expert podcast, and we are talking Tai Chi, we are talking balance, we are talking inner peace, we are talking tips and techniques to help you feel good in your mind, good in your body, and help you feel true inner balance and know that anything is possible. And I have a guest this week, and that is George Thomson, and George guides us through all of this. He talks to us about his journey from going from anxiety to discovering Tai Chi in the mountains. He talks about how he created a film about the art of losing yourself. He tells us about his daily practices, his struggles, and also lots of tips and techniques that are going to help you to really feel calm and centered and the best version of yourself. So before we get into this week's episode, I just wanted to remind you about my Face Yoga teacher training. Now, my Face Yoga teacher training is wonderful for you if you are looking to teach the beautiful techniques of face yoga to other people. And if you would like to learn more about the philosophy and the science behind face yoga, learn about the anatomy and physiology of the face, learn the key techniques and exactly how to teach them successfully to other people, understand how to structure classes, learn a little bit more about how to set up face yoga as a business, and to get an accredited qualification that you can use anywhere in the world, which allows you to teach face yoga to individuals and groups in person or online. You can just go to faceyogaexpert.com and all the information's in there. So without further ado, let's get into this week's episode with George Thomson. George, a warm welcome to this week's episode of the Face Yoga Expert podcast. How are you today?
I am beautiful, Danielle. Great to be with you.
And it's great to be with you as well. And before we started recording, we actually talked a little bit about the community that you're living in at the moment and your film and the projects you're doing. So I feel like that's a good place to start. So maybe if you could just give us a little bit of an overview of where you are in your life at the moment.
Yeah, so my name is George Thomson and I'm a filmmaker and a Tai Chi teacher. I started my journey in anxiety and pain and confusion, thinking I was uniquely messed up for finding life difficult and searching for peace. I journeyed to China. I tried to get into a Kung Fu monastery. That's a whole story. I failed and then was taken to a Tai Chi school. I thought, Tai Chi, isn't this for old people? But I tried it and fell in love with it. And that was now 8 years ago. And I have dedicated my life to share what I've been learning on my journey of waking up to my potential, the awesome potential that every single one of us have. And I have founded an organization called Balance is Possible to share ideas and practices and films and communities to help us tap into that potential. And so one thing I'm really passionate about at the moment is my film, The Subtle Art of Losing Yourself, which is recorded in the awesome Scottish mountains. We see the beauty of the animals living out there, reindeer, snow hare, ptarmigan, and we see their complex emotional lives. And then we ask the question, well, if they're intelligent, have an emotional life, what does that say about us and where we come from? So then we adventure together through the mountains to discover our place in the universe.
Wow, there's so much I want to unpack in that. It all sounds so exciting and so impressive. And let's actually just take it back to when you first discovered Tai Chi, when you're in the mountains. I know that that journey of finding yourself was definitely because you'd lost yourself, but then you found that art of losing yourself, which I think is such a beautiful full circle in many ways. But when you first discovered Tai Chi, started to move your body in that way, move your energy in that way, how did it feel?
I think I was like most people, that I was disembodied. So yeah, I ran and I tried to be healthy, but I didn't really see my body as a friend, a refuge, a place that I can really feel resourced and rest my awareness there. I didn't even know that really I could direct my awareness. I was stuck in my mind. Tai Chi is a physical extension of meditation. We move with mindfulness, we move with presence, often with the breath, like yoga. But the movement comes from the martial art culture of China. So there's strong moves, you have wide open hips, trying to get low to the ground and then move with grace and ease. And it's a philosophy for life. It's not just a movement practice. It's moving with compassion and moving from our center to find our center in the midst of all the change. And that's really what this journey has given me is, yeah, challenges still happen, and I have parts of me that get triggered by events and relationships like every other human. But the difference now from this work is that I have this spaciousness to be able to hold these parts, to hold these emotions with more balance and compassion.
And how long did it take you for that shift to happen? Because I know when you first started the Tai Chi, you're going through anxiety and, your body and your mind wasn't as balanced as it is now. When did you first feel that shift?
Well, it's quite funny. In Buddhism, they have a war, ironically, between two schools. You have the sudden enlightenment school and the gradual enlightenment school. The sudden enlightenment school say, what? You're a mysterious manifestation of the magnificent intelligence of the universe. You're already the Buddha, so just wake up, wake up. Then the other group are like, no, it's going to take a long time because we have this conditioning of our human mind that creates painful thinking and stories, and it's going to take a long time for you to cultivate that spaciousness to then be able to really find the truth of your being and the reverence that is possible. The Taoists, they take the second path. They take one of gradual practice. Practice is the path. So there's people like Eckhart Tolle or Byron Katie that have these awakening stories of their pain is so intense that they're like, wow. In that moment, they realize the nature of consciousness, that they are not their thoughts. Not every thought they have needs to be true. And they waken into that massive spaciousness of not needing to identify with the old patterns that cause so much pain. My journey has been the gradual approach. And certainly there's been a gradual approach, but there's been big step changes. And I do remember, these wow moments where I, for the first time, had an anxious thought pop up and I just let it go. And I didn't need to identify with it, nor did I fight it and say, no, I am a good boy. Instead, I allowed it to pass through. And that was a very deep and powerful moment for me.
Yeah. And you still use that same practice now? So when those parts of you that no doubt have the fear or the anxiety or feeling uncomfortable in some way, are you able just to let them go with that same ease or grace now? Or do you find that you have sort of an internal push-pull that happens?
The process that I use is called notice, center, choose. Notice, center, choose. Notice the experience, thoughts, sensations, emotions. Take a breath, center. Can I be with this? Open up into that spaciousness. And then from that spaciousness, choose. So maybe that we just let it go. Okay, it's an anxious thought. It's not real. I can just let it go. Or maybe sometimes anxious thoughts, they're speaking to something that's true. And so I need to take action upon it. Or if I can't let it go and I can't take action upon it, or that's not relevant, then can I change how I relate to it? Can I find compassion and acceptance of the challenge? Because that challenge can exist within the spaciousness. The beautiful potential that all of us have is that we have a heart that has the capacity to hold the 10,000 joys and the 10,000 sorrows. That is already our birthright, but there's parts of us that get in the way of believing that. So that's the potential and that's the framework. And then, for me as a fallible human, I come in and out of relationship with that spaciousness. Certainly, I'm so much more in it. And really progress on the path is not marked by the fact that we don't fall over, but instead it's how quickly we notice we've fallen over and how kindly we pick ourselves back up. So for me, previously, I was in anxiety for weeks and was stuck there. Now, okay, maybe a day, maybe an hour, maybe 5 minutes. And the masters, they can do it in the moment, every moment. They notice the experience, they center, they choose their response. And so that's the gradual path. I think it's a lot more compassionate because we will fall over. It's almost inevitable. And so then how do we respond to ourselves as we notice and then pick ourselves back up?
Yeah. And if someone listening to this is feeling very stuck at the moment and not feeling that sense of balance, what would you say step one is to the art of losing yourself, to finding yourself, to knowing balance is possible?
One of the most famous lines from Taoism, from the Tao Te Ching, which is the foundational text of Taoism, is a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So if it feels way too much to think that, I could not be depressed, or for me, like I could not have my anxiety take over, or for me not to get triggered with abandonment scripts, which is something that some of my parts are bringing up at the moment. If that feels too much to believe, actually, we don't need to fully know how that future potential could look like. All we need to do is take the first step. So what's the smallest first step? So that's one element. Another element is still to believe in that potential. So is there even 1% of you and me that believes that I can do this? Give me 100% of that 1%. Because then that's when our psyche's made up of parts. There's parts that say, yeah, I can do this. And there's parts that say, no way, you can't do that. Remember what happened last time. Let's not do that again. Choose the part that empowers you, because that spaciousness means in the wise self-leadership that we're developing is that we can choose. We have responsibility, the ability to choose our response. And there may be parts that don't believe that. You've done so much work for so many years and you're still this way. We can even choose in that moment to respond differently to that very voice. And there are deep, deep practices that have survived so many thousands of years because truly they do work. And so, it's almost an arrogance to believe that, oh, I'm so messed up that these practices won't work for me. And I can speak from my own experience of feeling that sometimes. So yeah, 2 elements: make it really small, get going. And then if there's even a small amount of you that believes, focus on that and let that help you.
And I love how you bring up that idea of parts. And that's something over the last few years I've been working with a lot. So I don't know if you know the system, which is called internal family systems, which I've been working with a lot with an expert in this. And she's been guiding me through. And it's been wonderful because I've actually started to understand that I am not one thing. I am many, many parts, and different parts of me are there for different reasons, and different parts of me come up at different times, and different parts of me are very hidden at other times, and some parts are there to protect other parts. And it's really interesting because I think we can often think that our feelings are linear or they exist solely by themselves. But when we actually look a little bit deeper, there are so many different parts. And I personally have found that really freeing and really empowering as well. So I love how you're bringing that up. And also what I'm hearing from you is start very small. Don't try and climb the mountain right away. It's about taking that first step. And talking about mountains, it feels like mountains have been quite significant in your journey, right from discovering your Tai Chi to what you do now with a lot of your filmmaking. Maybe you can talk us through a little bit about the significance of mountains for you, but also about your film.
Firstly, on parts, internal family systems been super powerful for me. I've trained in it, and with my clients, I work with that. And I do think it's a innovation, so, okay, these practices are thousands of years old, and really there have been significant innovations in understanding the psyche and how to find peace. And No Bad Parts, great Audible book, incredible book. I recommend that to so many people. Then mountains. Yeah, mountains around the world have been spiritual places. There's a phrase in Chinese, dengao, ascending to high places. The emperors of old would build temples on top of mountains in order to gain perspective. I like to talk about another way of that spaciousness that I've already been sharing is the inner mountain view. So when we climb up a mountain, we have that place of perspective. For me, I feel, like I'm part of something so much bigger and so majestic and powerful and strong to create this mountain that's taken me 5 hours to climb. And then from that place of perspective on top of the mountain, I see clearly. It's no coincidence that the word wisdom comes from the root to see. And so when we see clearly, we gain wisdom. And then with that wisdom, we can navigate life with skill. Then we find peace and balance. So mountains, that inner mountain view, we can cultivate that place of perspective internally. And there's a beautiful dance between that which is outside of us and that which is inside. Because for me, as I've been out in nature and when I'm in these big landscapes, George and these little stories about how I messed up in various ways, they become less and less important because I'm being held in a bigger and bigger space. And so for me, that has been a sense of spirituality. And my understanding of spirituality is my understanding of my relationship to that which is bigger than myself, and the extent to which that understanding is a resource to support me. So it's understanding and resourcing. So when I'm out in nature, I charge up. I'm part of something so much bigger than myself, so mysterious. And I then ground my own identity in that bigger picture.
That's amazing. And tell me a little bit about where the inspiration for your film came.
Yeah, the subtle art of losing yourself. I'm on a mission to inspire balance for people and planet. That's the mission statement, for balance as possible. And films has seemed to be my medium through which I communicate. I also run retreats and do one-to-one work, but films hadn't really needed to work for it. And, every single one of us, we have unique gifts that come a bit easier to us than it does for other people. And for me, filmmaking is one of those things. So I was being mentored by a BBC director who said, well, you're going to Scotland this winter. Why don't you just make a film? And I was like, that's a great idea, not realizing just how much work
I love the word just in that.
Yeah,
just make a film.
just make a film. And then suddenly I had 6 weeks to write it, 2 weeks to film it. And then it took 2 years to then get it out to the world I got frauded and scammed and lost all of my money and had to move in with my family and struggles paying the team. It was a wild ride, but I'm very, very grateful for the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said before we started recording how many views it's got now, which is fantastic.
1.3 million.
Amazing. You must be so happy and so proud because all of that journey has now led to this. And I imagine the 1.3 million is just the start.
I feel so touched. I get messages every day of people sharing, for example, that they sat down with their grandparents and watched this film as a family, and their grandmother had never meditated before, never really had explored bigger senses of nature connection and spirituality. And for them, it was their awakening film. That was their awakening to their deeper understanding of who we are and our potential for peace. And yeah, what a privilege. I feel, had emotion moving through me as I expressed that, because it feels very deep for me to be able to support people on their journey.
Yeah, it's huge. And you must feel, like you say, so privileged, but also so connected to what your soul wants and why your soul came here in this lifetime. Because I can see, even as you talk about the film, your whole face lights up, and just the energy that outpours from you, I can tell that it's something that you're meant to be doing. And I love that you've chosen the medium of film as well, because it's not an easy medium to choose. So I know that that BBC director mentioned it to you, but I'm sure over the years he's mentioned making films to many people who haven't taken that step. When he said that, did you feel that sense of being lit up in the way that I can see that you're lit up by it now?
Yeah, I do feel lit up. I'm very grateful to speak about life missions. It's not a very Taoist phrase, a phrase that they like is stop asking why, start saying wow.
That's good.
Which is great. It's like, and I think it's important to say there's a difference between the point of life and life being meaningful. So there is no point to life. There's no specific point that we're getting to. It's not like, get the job, get the house, get the kids, then retire, then you've achieved life. Because we get there and then we feel just as miserable as we did at the start, because we've conditioned our nervous system to always find happiness in the future. We never arrive. So there's no point, but it doesn't make it meaningless, because there's so much meaning from our very being and so much value that comes from our very being. To celebrate this gift of life, and to then, for me, contribute and to be of service to the flourishing of life. Yeah, there's two elements for me of meaning. There's the doing and the being, or the service and the celebration. So then, maybe not all of us will necessarily find that mission. So, because it could be that actually how I show up in the world is to really be with my family and to show up in a deep energy of presence with them. And there doesn't need to be this life golfing mission, which mine has turned into. For me, yeah, filmmaking is, it takes many, many hours, so many people. So yeah, my writing and then camera people and me presenting, animators, musicians, trying to then get it into streamers, and that not going very well because I'm still relatively small, and so many elements to it. And as Nietzsche says, a human with a strong enough why can bear any how. So actually then all of this has felt like work/play. It hasn't had to be this heavy thing because, yeah, I'm deeply grounded in the clarity of the mission.
Yeah, and I'm intrigued to know whether you know anything about human design and what your energy type is in human design.
In this community that I'm living in, people have been talking about it, and I haven't really explored. I believe I am a generator.
Yeah, I was going to say you're a generator without a doubt. I just hear it. I'm also a generator as well.
Yeah.
But and actually about 60% of us are generators, but I can just tell the way that you're talking about everything, and us as generators, the way that we get our energy is by just following what truly lights us up at a visceral body level. And when we get burnt out or we get anxious or we get down, it's because we are doing what other people expect us to do. And we have unlimited energy when we're doing what truly lights us up and what's truly aligned. And we can have very, very little energy as soon as we start just almost being that workhorse. That's very, very common for generators, to just sort of take on the workload of everybody else and just be piling up the work. And then they're feeling very low mentally and physically. So yeah, I thought that you might be a generator, but that's interesting. That's coming into your vicinity now. So it's something I'm so interested in too. And I recently did a training last year in it as well. But yeah, you should explore that a little bit more. I think you would really enjoy that, particularly learning what your unique gifts are, and also learning, and I would guess, like me, that your place where you truly feel yourself is being on mountains. And funnily enough, mine is as well. There's about 5 or 6 different locations which are people's truly aligned places, and I would guess yours are mountains. I think that's probably a good guess there. Now, what I would love to ask you is what your day-to-day looks like. I know you talked about the community that you're in. I know you talked about your team and a little bit about your work. I'd love to know what a typical day looks like for you, and also where your wellness and spiritual practices come into that.
One of my mantras is don't make your practice so big that you don't do it.
Yes.
So, it's an important one. And, for me, like making the film was like, I don't have time to do my full 1-hour meditation. Therefore, I'm going to skip it. And that really, in that time of intensity, because there's so many hours, that actually a couple of things is, one, can I remove the hard distinctions between life and practice, that they are one, and I am cultivating a presence and an energy, and that presence is the most important thing. And yes, practice is really important, because, okay, can I sit in emptiness every single day? So don't make the practice so big that you don't do it. A beautiful small practice, 5 breaths, 5 slow, kind breaths. So yummy, beautiful amount of practice. Don't need a phone or a timer, just 5 breaths. For the clients that I've worked with and people in the YouTube audience, like if they do that every day, their life changes, no doubt. So for me, my morning practice is MMA, and it's not mixed martial arts. It's move, meditate, affirm. So I do movement, so it could be dance, it could be qigong, it could be doing some body weight, primal animal flow. And then I meditate, doing around 35 minutes in the morning at the moment, seated, watching the breath, deep, slow breathing, and then opening up into spacious awareness. And then affirmations. So I used to get a bit triggered at affirmations. My woo-woo alarm would go off, woo-woo-woo-woo. And now I'm really team affirmations, because this is the technology to work with the storyteller, the aspect of our psyche that narrates and tells stories about our experience. And we have a tendency to go towards the negative, and affirmations are a way of calling in our empowering truth. So, for example, in the morning, I say, I'm on a mission to inspire balance for people and planet. I'm an informed and passionate guide for my generation. With compassion, humility, moderation, integrity, I serve fearlessly. Say that every morning, and then I'm cheered up. And it's a beautiful way to really get aligned. And then I flow through my day. I write, I read, and I create courses, I create videos. And then I do teamwork as well. Often I try and keep my morning for deep work, no meetings, and then the afternoon is meetings. I like to get out and climb trees and to walk and to sing and see friends, and then that's a day.
What a beautiful practice. And to conclude everything we've talked about, if you could share with my audience your top tip or your favorite technique for truly feeling that sense of inner peace, what would that be?
The word qi in qigong means energy, and it also means breath. So it's got two meanings, energy and breath, which is pretty interesting. The same word for the energy that powers the whole universe is also the breath. So that points to just how important the Taoists thought the breath was. And for me, it is the fundamental tool, a resource, a refuge, a place of sanctuary that we can rest our awareness. One thing that we find out in this journey of waking up is that, we can place our awareness, we can have anchors to rest. No longer do I just need to be caught in my mind. I have responsibility. I can choose where to rest my awareness. The breath is such a beautiful, powerful tool to do that. And I'd like to invite one practice, just maybe we could share a breath together if you're open to doing that.
Of course.
Beautiful. And if our beautiful audience would like to join, I invite you to breathe in, to soften your face, and to breathe out. Let's try one more of those. Breathing in, can you soften even more? And breathing out. And that is the practice. So easy, so quick. I do that throughout the day. And that is when we can pause, notice, center, choose, using the breath.
It's my favorite technique ever, breath. I mean, I would have shared the exact same tip if someone had asked me that question. It really is so powerful. And George, if people would like to get in contact with you, if they would like to watch your film and hear more about the wonderful community projects you do and courses that you offer, where can they find out more about you?
Yeah, beautiful. So my YouTube channel, George Thomson, check out the film. It's free on YouTube, The Subtle Art of Losing Yourself. Then if you want to support me and the team, we have Taoist Wellness Online, TAOist, so Taoist and then wellness.online. And that is now the biggest Tai Chi school in the world. It's a yearly subscription and you get access to my Master Gu's teachings and my own. I also hold retreats in the UK. We're in Wales this year, going to be surrounded by waterfalls and mountains, and we're going to meditate and explore these ideas to help awaken our potential. And then also I work with 3 people one-to-one at a time, so only a limited amount, but that work is very powerful as well.
Wonderful. George, thank you so much for joining us this week. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you.
Thank you so much for your presence, your energy. Very grateful.